They like me. They really like me. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Guitar Gear Trader. I am Steve, coming at you as always from Nashville, Tennessee. Today, we are going to have, this isn't going to be gear talk today. This isn't going to be about necessarily a specific guitar or a specific piece of gear. It's going to be because I got some much awaited accolades from one of my favorite YouTubers. Now, when I say accolades, it doesn't necessarily mean they're praising me personally or they're praising the channel or anything like that. But what you will see, what I'll show you in a minute, is one of my favorite YouTubers loves something about the Guitar Gear Trader. So before we get into that, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below, share this with your friends, follow me on Instagram and on TikTok at Guitar Gear Trader. So one of my favorite YouTube channels that I found, I want to say when I first moved down to Tennessee about 6 years ago, was a channel called Riffs, Beards, and Gear. And the host of Riff, Beards, and Gear, his name is Fluff, or his friends call him Fluff. And he's a pretty big YouTuber, and he has a really cool channel that does a lot of cool little things. One thing that he's known for which was the way I found him, was that he reviews and demos like gear that's mainly used for like heavy metal and thrash metal, really heavy stuff. I stumbled upon him because I'm a big fan of orange amps, and whenever I look up reviews on specific orange amps, his was always one channel that popped up. And I like his the way he does his videos. I think he's very honest in his reviews. He doesn't necessarily tell you everything's good. He will tell you the flaws and things. And I started watching him because of that. And then I realized, wow, he's got a lot of cool different content. He does like little side shows. It's not just review stuff. Sometimes he'll do, he does something called ridiculous eBay or reverb listings, where people either send him listings on Reverb that are ridiculous, or he'll find ridiculous listings on Reverb, and he'll just joke around, joke on them for a couple minutes each, and it's a lot of fun. So some of those things could be, guitars that, like Frankenstein guitars that people put together in their basement, and they want, $5,000 for, and they're pieces of junk, and he just rips on them for a little while. Or somebody will have, I don't know, pickup rings for $50,000 on sale on Reverb, and he just talks about the listing and how silly it is. One of my favorite things that he does is called Rate or Roast My Rig, and basically what that is people will take pictures of their rigs and send them in to him, and he will give you a rating. He calls them beards, and basically he has a beard. That's why it's called Beards, Riffs, Beards, and Gear. And he gives you on a scale of 1 to 5 beards. I know one of his rules is if you have a dog in your picture, you automatically get 5 beards. I don't have a dog, so I knew I was going to be at a disadvantage immediately. However, I sent my old room, okay, the room you see behind me is going to be the room that we're going to talk about a little bit more later. But when I first saw him do Rate or Roast My Rig, I sent him a picture of my old room, which was my spare bedroom upstairs that I had my collection in, my guitars in. And I sent him a picture of my guitar wall, which had about 7 or 8 guitars on it at the time. And I sent it into him about 2 or 3 times, because you would email it to a special email that he has listed in the description of his video, and you hope that he sees it and puts it on the show next week or the week after that. He used to do Rate or Roast My Rig once a week, or once every 2 weeks. And then it kind of fell off a little bit, and then it came back. And when I first sent him in pictures of my room, it was probably around episode 45, 46. And now he's up to episode, excuse me, he's up to episode like 97, 98 at this point. So I had sent in a couple times. I never made it. And then I kind of gave up on that dream. But I didn't give up watching him. I kept watching him. I just gave up on the fact that making the show, because I didn't think what I was sending him was necessarily a rig. I was sending him a picture of a collection more than my amp and my setup and my guitar that I use when I play out, because at the time I wasn't in a band anymore, right? I was in a band in New York many years ago. I just got into this band, Vintage Voltage, now. We've been, playing for a couple of months. This was 6 years ago. I wasn't even thinking about being in a band at the time, so I didn't necessarily have a rig at the time. I wasn't even playing through my amp very much, even in my room. So when I built this room, I have the TV here, and my son was here watching TV with me one day, and he saw me watching Ray to Roast My Rig, and he's like, "What show is this?" And I told him about it and told him what it was all about. And he's like, "Are you going to send him a picture of the room?" Because we had just finished the room. And I was like, "I don't know. It's not really a rig. It's more, just a space." And he's like, "Well, I think you should send in a picture of it." So I snap a picture of it, from the doorway, and I send it in. And every week we turn on the TV and he's like, "Oh, we got to watch the episode, Dad. We got to watch the episode. See if you made the episode." And week after week after week, I didn't make the episode. He goes, "Dad, send it in one more time. Send it in again." So I send it in again. A couple of weeks go by, and I get an email through Instagram from one of our listeners, and he says, "Dude, I saw your studio on Ray to Roast My Rig." So I was like, "Oh my God, my son's gonna go crazy." So we went home, we watched it, and I want to watch it with you guys so that I can comment on what they're saying in the video. So let's check it out. Okay, so here's his channel, and I highly suggest you check him out. It's Riff Beards and Gear. He does a lot of cool things. Typically with these rigs, people will set up their pedal board, they'll set up their amp, the guitars that they use. Sometimes people have multiple things. Sometimes people take pictures of the room. So I didn't feel all that bad about it. But I think I'm going to send in my actual rig. I'm going to set up my actual rig and send it in as a separate entry and see what they think of that too. But let's take a look at it together. He started doing the show with his friend Mike, and his friend Mike really adds a lot to the show. I like that he added Mike to the show, and I enjoy his commentary on his takes on gear and on rigs and on reverb listings as well. So he's always fun to watch too. I know a lot of people give him crap about having a co-host, but I think they both play off each other really well, and they got great chemistry because they're good friends. But here's the episode. So I'll pause it here and there to comment.
Next, we have. I'm pretty sure I've been to this music store before. This looks like this looks like one of the
Emerald City.
Yeah, this looks like one of the vintage rooms in Emerald City or a Chicago Music Exchange or something.
Now, that's the first thing they say about the room, and that was exactly what I was going for when I built this space. This was a garage. This used to have my truck in here. I used to have shelving with all my tools. I had a tool bench over here, and I'm sitting right next to my hot water heater, where behind me was the garage door. And I shut this off, and I said to myself, I want this to be like the expensive room at Chicago Music Exchange or Carter's Vintage Guitars or Rumble Seat Music. I want this to be a place where you would go and hang out and pick up any guitar that you want off the wall of your wildest dreams and play your dream guitar sitting on a leather couch watching TV. And that was my vision. And the fact that they said that as soon as they saw the room was like, yes, I accomplished exactly what it was that I went out to do. It took me a long time to make this room and save up the money to make this room. And I'm just it feels so validated to hear them say that kind of compliment.
Or Guitar Center.
Wow.
Is that the state? That's a good old state of Tennessee on the wall there. So it's
everybody that sees this picture or sees the room, because I posted this picture on a Facebook page. It was a man cave Facebook page, right? and I posted it on there, and everyone said, "Where'd you get that Tennessee sign?" And great story. I used to do artwork. I used to draw and sell my artwork at like fairs. I used to go to Comic Cons and cons in New York and New Jersey when I lived up there. And when I came down to Tennessee, there's not a lot of that down here. But I would find here and there these little fairs, and I was like the only guy selling artwork at these fairs. There were like people selling jams and jellies, and there was a guy next to me one day selling wooden Tennessees. Now, when I moved down here in 2020, that was like the mass exodus out of California and New York, and everybody was moving to Tennessee and Texas and Florida. And everybody was buying these little wooden Tennessees that were like maybe 2 feet long by 8 inches high, and it had your zip code on it, or it said "Live, Laugh, Love" on it, or whatever like that. And the guy next to me was selling these, and he was blowing through these things. I could barely sell a piece of artwork, but he was selling hand over fist. He was making money on these little wooden Tennessees. So I had this weird idea in my head. I was like, how big can you make one of those Tennessee signs? He's like, well, how big do you want it? I was like, well, I want it about 3 feet tall by about 9 feet wide. And he's like, yeah, I could make that. He charged me $500. That is all solid walnut that he made that out of. It thing weighs a ton, and it holds 7 guitars on it. And he came and he mounted it on the wall for me. He stained it all. He put that cool, the TriStar for Tennessee on it. And everyone that sees that thing absolutely loves it. So I'm glad they noticed that too.
Assuming they're in Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's expected, I suppose. Look at even like
Yeah.
the amps. There's a
Marshall
is that
Slash?
a silver. That's a Slash.
On the bottom there.
Yeah.
That's an AFD, yeah.
Silver Jubilee
Yep.
Studio.
Yep.
An Origin on top of that. A Friedman, one of those Line 6 Bogner.
Friedman JJ Mini, yeah.
Collabs.
Yep.
We got a lone PRS and.
I love how Fluff, who's the guy with the beanie on, he has so much attention to detail whenever he does these. He zooms in and he sees and he knows all of his gear. He is so good with gear. The fact that he knew that Marshall on top of that 4x12 was an AFD, Slash just by this picture really impressed me. But it's funny because like this room has changed so much since I've taken this picture and sent it to them. Like I've had this room for a couple of months now, and I only have one of those amps. Of all those amps on that wall under the vintage voltage sign, I only have one of those amps left, and it's the JJ Friedman. All of those other Marshalls I don't have. I have a new Marshall, but I don't have any of those. And they don't see any of the Marshalls behind the couch. They never mentioned that orange amp behind the couch. They never mentioned the Friedman Run 50 that's behind the couch. There's an Ampliphonics and Gain behind that couch. They don't see a whole bunch of that stuff.
Basically,
The Gretsch in the middle. The John Lennon Rickenbacker.
it's every.
Look at this
It's
collection.
like everything you want and nothing.
Not only am I hanging out here, I'm actually moving in.
You are more than welcome to come and hang out anytime you want, Fluff. Trust me. You can sleep on the couch. You can play every guitar you want anytime you want, buddy.
Right.
I'm sleeping on the couch, which looks quite comfortable.
It do.
Dude, this is a vibe.
Even the couch is good. Look,
Yeah.
this tells me this
clean
person took a moment to wipe off the guitars before
Sure.
taking the photo, even from that distance. I appreciate that kind of attention to detail. I would have gotten the rag out of the photo.
Now, I agree with him there, and I didn't wipe down all the guitars. I think I had just changed strings on something, and I was wiping it down, getting the dust off of it. And I'm embarrassed by it, but those blue things that are on that ottoman, those are my socks. I'm just so glad they didn't realize those are my gross, dirty gym socks that I forgot to take off before I took the picture.
Hopefully it's not a...
It's still a great photo.
It's amazing. Blackberry smoke, so you know they're into the good.
Just zooming in on my posters. I love it. I have little Blackberry Smoke posters next to the Hofner bass and next to the Gretsch Duo Jet there on the Tennessee sign.
Guitar rock.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at
Good collection.
The fact that they're just about speechless really like makes me smile from ear to ear. It really, really does.
you know that two tellies, one Strat, and I gotta say, I like that ratio.
I don't.
What?
I'm just not a telly guy. I've just come to terms with it.
I'm just saying Gibsons and
Sure.
others to Fenders. I
Sure.
love a telly of any Fender guitar.
I'm going for one of those Gretches, though, for me.
Unfortunately, I don't have either one of those Gretches in the middle. I still have the White Falcon, but I do not have the 6120 or the 6119, and they were both vintage 1964 models with zero binding rod. Fluff would have loved them, but they have both gone to the same Nashville musician that plays at the Ryman all the time, and if they ever make it to the Ryman stage, I'll be very, very happy.
Gentleman or something? That Tennessean?
Look at that Falcon in the middle there.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice that.
Sexy dog.
Vintage voltage.
I mean, this is...
What are you giving this rig? What are you giving this setup? There's only one.
Without doubt, it's a 5.
This is a 5.
And, clearly this person has enough money to throw around at this stuff.
I like the passion and I like the taste because it's varied.
Now that kind of hit me hard a little bit, because when he said he has the money to throw around at this stuff, it does. I work really hard, and I'm not taking it as an insult from Mike that he said that at all, because I obviously do have the money to throw around at this stuff, but it came at such a high cost. And I opened up a business when I first moved down here, a side business, to kind of make our lives here better than they were in New York, because we didn't have a lot in New York, and we kind of struggled to make our way through in New York. There were times where we didn't know if either the daycare was getting paid or the mortgage was getting paid. And then when we came down here and everything was a lot cheaper, and we had money from the sale of the house in New York, we had more money to go, to do things. And I wanted to, make our lives even better. And I opened up a business, and I sacrificed a lot of time with my family to make enough money to do a couple of things, and to go on extra vacations that we were never used to going on and stuff like that. And I saved up a lot of money to buy a house on a farm. And I realized I'm never going to be able to afford it because the prices here keep going up. So instead of me spending the money I saved on a house that was going to be on 4 or 5 acres on a farm, I was like, let me create a room in this house that I absolutely love anyway to keep me here. And that's what this is. This is that. So it was the shifting of me, looking to buy property and land in Tennessee, and switching my route and making this house better. So I put on an extension to where we built a new garage, and I closed this garage off and made it my guitar oasis. And it ends up my whole family loves this room. I can't keep them out of here. So it's the new sports room, it's the new movie room, it's the new music room. But I don't want people out there thinking I'm a trust fund baby, because I'm not. I don't want people out there thinking I'm a banker, because I'm not. I'm a teacher, and I have a little side hustle that I work real hard at.
So there is a line of flannel shirts there. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom.
Is this an actual store?
Or is
It is not an actual store, Fluff, and I love the fact that he sees my flannel shirts, and he thinks that the flannel shirts are on an amp, but it's actually this chair that I'm sitting in. This chair that I'm sitting in right now is what houses my flannel shirts.
is that a one flannel over the corner of an amp?
I think
don't
it's
know.
one flannel.
But is that not the back of it? So that wouldn't make sense.
No, that's the front. It's the buttons.
That's not
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
it is hard to tell. In my heart, I want it to be a rack of flannels.
Maybe Vintage Voltage is an actual store. Maybe they're screaming at us in the comments that this is an actual store. If this were an actual store, my rating stands.
Vintage Voltage, Fluff, is my awesome cover band. in Spring Hill, Tennessee, where we play all of your best and highest class bars and dives. Come check us out anytime you like.
Yeah.
It's still 5 out of 5.
There it is, everybody. 5 out of 5 beards. I couldn't be happier with that. I didn't know if they were going to be, critique me as far as I was very concerned with not having any pedals in the room, because that's a big part of the rig, right? And I think, like I said, I'm going to set up my actual rig. I'm going to set up my orange, and I'm going to have my pedal board out. My pedal board's a mess. They're going to nail me on that because they're really sticklers about neatness of your pedal board. And my pedal board's an absolute disaster because there's wires going everywhere. But it works for me. But maybe that'll bring me down to a normal 3 out of 5 beards or 3.5 out of 5 beards. But I was ecstatic when I got this rating. So yeah, there it is, everybody. I wanted to share that with you because it made my day. It made my week. The people in the comments did not have too much to say about my room, which I was a little bit surprised about, because when I posted that same picture onto that man cave page on Facebook, there were, oh man, I must have had 700 comments asking me about where I got certain things or what color the paint was or this and that. And there were 3 or 4 other rigs on that episode, and one other rig got a 5 with me, and it was a pretty cool room. It had this like Halloween theme, and I think a lot of the viewers of that channel are like metalheads and shredders, and I think that my room's a little bit too kind of like somebody called it like a dentist office or something like that. He said all he hears is Tush by by ZZ Top, and if he knew me, they'd know that is the furthest thing from necessarily what I'm into. I appreciate ZZ Top, but that's not necessarily my thing. But either way, it didn't matter. I got the kudos from Fluff and Mike, which are the only kudos I really needed. So let me know what you guys think. Tell me what rating you'd give me out of 5 beards for the room. I appreciate that. And if you want to see a whole episode on the building of this room, there is a whole episode on my channel about how I built this room and how I set it up and stuff like that. And check that out. So until next week, I'm Steve, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. 5 out of 5 beards. Peace out, everybody. See you later.